Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Hiring and Inspiring. Today's guest is a chap called Greg Ward. Greg is a fellow recruiter, fellow industry veteran, very passionate about what he does. We connected initially on LinkedIn. He puts a lot of great stuff up there talking about his particular field and his recruitment experience, telling lots of stories. He's based in the UK, my original homeland. Um, so we gonna have a chat today all around what he does, and I'm hoping for him to share some of his wisdom and his journey, and for me to learn from him as well. So, Greg, with that introduction, welcome to the show. How are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm doing well, Joe. Thanks a lot. Yeah, sunny UK at the moment, which is nice. I'm not going to complain. I know people aren't that happy, but yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good.
I'm strangely jealous because it's the other way around here, and it's about 10 degrees in Melbourne at the moment. So it's not we get a few days a year where it's the other way around. Mate, so to kick it off, you have a newish role. Is that Michelin? You've been there maybe
Yeah,
just under a year now. How's it all going in the new role?
yeah, no, it's going really well. I think that my recruitment journey is maybe a little bit different to a lot of people's. In the sense that I've come into recruitment probably quite late in my kind of career. Because before that, there's a big history of engineering, manufacturing, production, um, and it's kind of, and I think these are the kind of experiences that I bring was is sitting from the other side of the desk, if you like. Um, so I've been, a hiring manager, part of the hiring process for over a decade, and it's understanding what clients want and what they're looking for, and the kind of the nuances and things um, that we get. So that kind of understanding's there of why candidates get rejected, even though it's sometimes it's head scratching. Um, so the recruitment's going really well. It's just kind of everything pointed towards recruitment for me. It was quite bizarre. I actually didn't have any intention to go into recruitment until I had a conversation with someone, and they looked at my background and my experience and said, "Actually, you know what? You've got a great understanding of engineering, manufacturing in the UK, and with your skill set, it's actually something that you're very suited to." So yeah, it's going really well. We're quite busy at the moment, which is nice. The tight candidate market as well, which makes things very interesting. There's no resting on your laurels. It's always kind of pushing and trying to build that database up of decent candidates, which there are out there. I think it's just a case of doing what you can to find them.
Is it in? Because I'm not, I guess, across the UK market as much. The UK, the sort of generally speaking, is it still quite sort of candidate led in terms of there is still a bit of a shortage? It's still, I know that was the trend definitely last year. In Australia, I feel like it has corrected itself a little bit this
Mm.
year, as in it's slightly less jobs, slightly more candidates, but still slightly in favour of it's hard to find candidates, bit of a shortage. But what's the UK market generally
Yeah,
saying?
so quite recently, some data was released that we're at a point where I'm not sure whether it's the highest, but certainly a high level of vacancies available, and we're at a low unemployment rate at the moment. I think going back, maybe 6 months, 9 months, there was a lot more people out of work looking for jobs, and now we're seeing very few CVs coming through of people that are out of work. So it's a case of people looking to move. I think the candidate market shifted as well as into where people are looking for new roles. Um, I don't think kind of job boards are I actually ran quite a recent poll on LinkedIn, and 50. I know this is cross globally, but 57% of people said that they don't use job boards when looking for a new role, which is quite interesting because, as you know yourself, that job boards are a great place to kind of get those CVs from. So that's quite interesting that there's been that shift there. So whether people aren't being quite so proactive, they're just kind of how should we put it, browsing the market at the moment. Um, but being candidate led, I'm not 100% certain that it is. Um, I think it's a difficult one because the the industry that I work in, there's obviously market salaries, and companies are finding it quite hard to go above that. So they're paying the going rate and being quite firm on that, rather than you know going above and beyond to pull candidates in. Um, I think the clients are being a little bit more patient, waiting for the right people to come along and that are after the market rate, as opposed to being that desperate. It's a funny one. It's a funny one at the moment, I think.
On the salary piece, because I definitely saw, say, last year, some crazy salaries being thrown around, to be honest, and for candidates that weren't always worth that or whatever. Are you saying that? And I haven't seen it as much this year. Is that the same with you? It sounds like that crazy money isn't. It's sort of got under a bit more control recently.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are certain industries that I operate in that I'm hearing some horror stories. People being
Right.
offered crazy salaries over the phone without being interviewed,
Yeah.
and that is just bizarre to me. I'd like to know how some of these actually play out. So yeah, they get in touch with the candidate. They say, right, we're happy just to have a brief interview, but we're going to offer you this, and they're almost making an offer before any interview takes place. Um, and that is crazy money. You're probably talking maybe in the particular engineering fields, you might be talking 5 to 10,000 above market rate. Um, but it is very few and far between. Like I said, I'd like to see how these play out, and whether people actually get offered that money once they've had that conversation in person, or whether it's just a head turning figure that they're trying to put out there.
Yeah. Yeah, gotcha. You talked about yes, it's still difficult to. And we were talking before we jumped on about it's still difficult to find candidates for the specific roles, and the job board piece, candidates aren't applying to jobs on the job board as much. As a recruiter yourself, what are some of the ways that you? And I always think it's our job to really sort of create a candidate, if you know what I mean, by sort of
Yeah, yeah,
not necessarily the low hanging fruit that isn't the same old candidates that are on the job boards or whatever. It's our job to create that candidate and put it on the table of our clients almost out of nowhere, and they go, "Where did you find that gem?" What
yeah.
I know isn't there's not always one way of doing this, but what are some of, I guess, your secrets that you do that to maybe in your field, how you create your candidates?
Yeah, I think that yeah, I think the low hanging fruit is what attracts a lot of people to recruitment in the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, you get a role, and I know, maybe 10 years ago, you'd place a job advert out, and you might get three to 500 applicants for it. Um, and I think that's what fooled a lot of people to go into recruitment, to say, well, this is quite easy, you know. But at the moment, yeah, I think that social media is playing a bigger part. Um, so I think that attraction, and it's difficult, social media, because as a recruiter, you're trying to attract the client and the candidates to yourself. So you're playing that middle ground all the time. Um, so I think that attraction from social media, to just let know people you're there, that if they are looking for that role, that they can come to you. and it's paying time and respect to those people that do reach out that are in your particular industry. That even if you haven't got any roles open, that you build up that relationship because you know that long term there's a chance that any good candidate you can place. I think a second one really is kind of that referrals. So when we build up a relationship with a candidate, if they get a good experience from you, a good process from you, that they're always likely to recommend other people that they know, maybe from a company that they're leaving, that there's some unhappy people there, uh, just to pass your details on. So that is that kind of relationship as well. But again, that is just down to your relationship with that particular candidate. Um, Obviously, LinkedIn search, I find that a mixed bag. Because a lot of the times, you're searching for candidates that have never heard of you and they're not quite sure. So again, that comes down to whether they do their homework on your social proof or not. And it is just that kind of hard work and talking to people. So some particular roles, if I'm sending out those initial emails or phone calls, it's actually getting and talking to the person that's maybe said no, this role isn't for me. It's actually trying to get them on the phone and just having a discussion where they are and actually whether they know anyone as well. So again, it's just down to relationships, I think, and the time that you put in. So I think those are the key
Yeah,
ones to work on at the moment.
I think just picking on what you said, I think the main thing I'm getting is your ability to like and just be to network and to be known in your particular industry is, I think,
Yeah,
the greatest. Like, and this is when you're kind of selling to win clients as well. That's why they use you, because you're known and your sort of name circulating, and you do that. If you do that when your particular industry, the UK manufacturing space, you're known hopefully in that space, and a lot of your content on LinkedIn, you're posting regular news, you're kind of seen as that go-to person for, and it doesn't have to be, um, for them for you to help that candidate find a new job or help them recruit. It could just be, oh great, what's happening with the salaries or for this
mm,
type of role, or what's happening. As long as when you become that kind of known, I always say this to any recruiter who's starting out: just become known and develop. That's like one of the first things you should be trying to do. Is just become known and network so really deeply in your particular niche. That's your way of getting candidates that your clients don't always have. Do you agree with that?
yeah, yeah, completely. And I think that you build up that level of authority and respect as well. So, for example, if you are, you're getting candidates through and they're asking for silly money, if you've got that kind of authority and respect in place already to say you're not going to achieve that, it doesn't matter how much I work on your CV, you won't achieve what you're after. Um, it can come as quite a shock, but I think once you have got that kind of authority, that it is kind of respected a little bit, and knowing that you're not trying to um, just put candidates in at the lowest price, you're actually talking what a fair price for the market, because you have to have some awareness of what is out there, not just what people are asking for, but what clients are willing to pay. We have. I'm not going to run them down because it's a job that I wouldn't want to do, and I've got some experience of it. As we have an issue a little bit with say welders at the moment, especially TIG welders, and the skills aren't there, and the TIG welders know this. So they'll be looking for, double salary because they know they're in short supply, but the client will not stretch to that. So you kind of have to manage that expectation somewhere. So it is, and it is becoming that authority. And I don't think that with social media you can particularly sell to candidates or you can particularly sell to clients the whole time. Being a 360 recruiter, you have to satisfy kind of both ends of it, and expectations of both ends as well. So it's a difficult position, and as you say, I think you're right that you build up that authority, authenticity. You understand what that market is. I have lots of conversations with people um, daily, just about where we are in the market at the moment, not necessarily, those cold email sales pitches on LinkedIn that everyone seems to absolutely love. But it is that conversation of, where are you? Where's the business heading? And just getting a good idea of who's out there and who's around, both clients, candidates. And I think what is important as well to build your reputation is when you can understand who's there, who's producing what, who's supplying into who. It allows you to connect people as well, connect businesses together. Even if you don't work for either of them, you can have that conversation, and they say, "Oh, we're after a supplier, or we're looking for new contracts," and you say, "Well, actually, have you thought about this market? Have you thought about that market? I can introduce you to a couple of people if you want." And I think that builds your reputation up, because reputation spreads far and wide, way beyond anything that we'll ever understand.
Yeah. Yeah. No, spot on. Going back to your own journey, then you touched upon it at the start. You came into recruitment at a sort of later point, say in your career. How did you sort of initially find that transition coming out of working in the manufacturing industry, working as you did
Um,
now, moving into recruitment?
yeah, I think for me it was quite easy. Um,
Okay.
because of my experience of being a hiring manager, looking at CVs, being part of an interview process. This is just kind of, I don't want to downplay it, but it's kind of an extension to what I was doing in part of my previous roles anyway. Um, and it's taken on board everything that you kind of know. Um, so I found the transition quite easy. I will admit that it is a lot more emotional than I ever thought it would be. Um, and you can kind of flip between the highs and the lows, and back up to the highs and back to the lows within 5 days quite easily. Um, and it is that's the one thing, I would say to people. You can, as much as you can, try and maintain that kind of level feeling. You will experience highs and lows within a couple of days. Um, there's no better feeling than when you get a client through to interview, through to offer stage, they accept the offer, and you're there going, "That's great," you know, because the candidates we work with are kind of work with the golden rule of, even if they're not successful on that placement, I always ask myself a question: are they someone that I'm confident I can place somewhere else? And if the answer's no, I generally wouldn't work with them too much. So when someone accepts that offer, it's that great high. It's like, oh, great. I love my client, and they've got a great candidate there, because I think the candidate's great. It's a perfect match, and you get that high. And then 2 days later, they accept a counter offer or something, and they pull out of it, and you just go, oh, and then suddenly that high drops quite quickly. So I think that was the one eye opener to me, was that kind of emotional roller coaster over the course of a week. But you know, we have to learn to let it go, and knowing that there's more highs coming when you hit the lows, and when you're at the highs, you realise this won't last. It's
Yeah.
something's coming up, just to throw a spanner in the works. So I think it's quite humbling at times as well.
How did you sort of, I guess, dealing with those highs and lows? for me personally, when initially when I first started in recruitment, I used to be, get so down when I lost a deal or something, or something fell out, and actually it took me like a few days to recover. Sometimes now
Yeah.
I can sort of brush it off. Do you think that's just experience? How did you sort of get better at, I guess, managing those
Yeah,
emotions?
I
Is
think
my
it is,
question.
and I think it's knowing coping strategies. There was something I
Hmm.
read a while back that I've kind of taken on board, and it kind of I can't remember it exactly, but it was kind of like it said it's okay to take 5 minutes just to be annoyed, but don't let it last any longer than 5 minutes. And I've kind of taken that on. So when something happens with the lows, it's kind of like, right, that's it, and just kind of go and even maybe not verbally, just kind of let that steam off for 5 minutes and go, okay, so this has happened. Let's get back to it because you found a candidate, you're going to find another one, and that's what you've got to remember. And I think sometimes the more frustration is that you've worked for so many weeks on a particular role, and then it hasn't quite worked, and you've got to go back to the beginning. But knowing that you've done it once and you can do it again. But it's taken that 5 minutes just to go and kick the dog or whatever you want to do,
Yeah,
metaphorically, obviously.
yeah,
But just allow that emotion to come out, because when we allow emotions to kind of manifest within ourselves and we don't address them, they build up to a point, and then they become a lot more magnified because I don't know whether you've done it yourself or other people have, and something will set you off, something will trigger you. And then you'll find yourself going, well, last week this happened as well. And then 2 months ago, this happened. And you suddenly find all of these things starting to come out. So I think that it's very healthy that when you do have a setback, and not just in recruiting, on other things as well, just say, you know what, I'm going to go and have 5 minutes. I'm just going to go and get some fresh air. I'm just going to let this come out. Um, and with me, it's always right. I kind of have a signal as well. So when those 5 minutes are up, it's just like, right, I'm going to go and get myself a coffee, and I'm going to sit down, and we'll correct this and we'll work on this again. So I think that allowing those negative feelings to come out, but also then having
yeah.
a symbolism to say, right, that is over now. Let's just move on.
Yeah. Love it. I always try and try and be like just fully take full ownership and accountable and be accountable for everything like that. Even when, like, say if it was the cold hard truth and facts that a candidate may have just completely lied to me or whatever and screwed me over, rather than just whinging, something I've done in the past, made the mistake of whinging and moaning about it and toys out the pram about how the candidate or whoever screwed me over. Hang on, I could have done better. I could have been more thorough with that, and it helps. That was my best strategy for not sort of lingering on those things
Yeah, yeah. We,
for
we
too
can
long.
always we can always learn from every experience, even if
Yeah,
we can explore everything that's gone on and still go, I couldn't have done much more.
yeah,
And I think that settles us as well, to go, actually, this was just something I couldn't see. I would never have seen it. Um, and it is that kind of peace of mind. Yeah, I think that's a good strategy, that we look at what we do in our processes and the questions that we asked, and actually, could I put a bit more work into this? Should I have been a bit more thorough? Is there any kind of red flags that I missed somewhere?
you mention on LinkedIn about the sort of value of trust in a relationship,
Hmm.
when that could be between employees or you and a candidate or whatever. You talk about the value of trust being super important to me. Sort of important in any relationship.
Hmm.
Talk to me about that. Why is trust so important to you?
I think that coming from a business background, that I think that everything is built on trust, accountability, taking personal responsibility for things. Because there are times when things happen, we have to put our hands up and say, sorry, yes, that was me. I did that. Um, and there's times that things are out of control. And I think that if that trust isn't there for you to say, actually, that was out of my control, or that's on your side. If that trust isn't there, they think that you're just passing the blame as well. Um, so we can send candidates into roles, and clients reject them, and clients get back saying, you're sending me the wrong people. And you can go, well, I'm going off the job description you've given me. That is blaming the client, and that's not always the case, because that personal responsibility is to go, well, actually, did I delve deep enough into what the client wanted, other than what was on the job description in front of me? So kind of that responsibility there. And I think that when you do those deep dives with your client, and maybe look under the surface of what type of person they want, or what skills are a priority, that you can build that level of trust, because they feel that you understand their business enough. And then when you do send candidates over that maybe not fill all the criteria, and you can justify why you sent that particular person. And I think that once that level of trust is there, that they will take the time to review that CV, not just to dismiss it out of hand, because that trust, that what you're doing, and you might be finding someone outside of their industry with those transferable skills, or with that character, or with that personality that they're after, that without the trust they would instantly dismiss, because you would as a recruiter. Um, and I think it's trusting people to do their job, because at the end of the day, as a recruiter, we're employed as almost an external employee. And and I think that we have to remember that companies are employing us as external employees, and you still have to deliver and meet the standards that they want, that they expect from their full-time employees. It's not, we waltz in and go, right, we're great, we're this wonderful person that's going to change your business, and we're going to find you all these staff. And you're not bigger than the company. At the end of the day, you are an external employee, and I think that we have to remember that. And I'd like to think every company would trust, 99% of their employees. There might be one or two they're not sure about, but ultimately, you want people to trust you, and certainly candidates to trust you, that you're not trying to just lowball them the whole time, especially when companies give a salary range. So if we're talking, and I've seen it, quite big salary ranges. So if we're talking, say, 30 to 40K, and you're saying to the client, look, I think we need to put you in at 30, is the candidate there going, well, actually, I think I'm worth 40, and it's building up that trust to say, well, actually, this is why this salary range is here, and this is where I think you sit in it, within that range. So I think trust is a big thing. I wouldn't work with anyone I didn't trust. I know that. And when I was hiring manager, again, there was a few companies that I worked with, few recruitment companies that I worked with, and there was probably a couple that I trusted more than the others. Um, and I remember why, and this is something, again, I've taken on board, that there was a guy that I worked with who said to me, I would rather send you that email to say I can't find anyone yet, than send you 20 candidates just because they've said yes. So I trust
Yeah.
in that every CV that was put on my desk was there for a reason, and not just because he wanted to fill that role.
Yeah. It sounds like, and this is stating the opposite of it, but trust is very much earned. in a sense of, and I'm always thinking about how do you earn that trust. And in the examples that you gave there in our industry, recruitment, when you're doing maybe taking the job spec, doing those real deep dive questions, really understanding the brief, asking the questions that that the hiring manager hadn't even thought about. Say that's how you're earning that trust by coming across and demonstrating that sort of credibility, right?
Yeah, trust is a difficult
Yeah,
thing because I guess there's always going to be that ongoing debate: is trust earned, or is it given and then it's lost?
yeah,
I don't think there's any particular answer to that. I think that people are trusted to a level, and then it's up to you whether that level goes up or down. Um,
yeah,
I think it'll always be an ongoing debate whether trust is earned or whether it's given from the
yeah,
start. But yeah, there
yeah.
are there
I
are
think
things that we can
that's
do. We can show by our actions to build up that level of trust. And I've got no
I think what you
qualms
just
with
said.
saying to a client, I'm really struggling with this. And
Yeah,
I think sometimes if you're honest and say, I'm struggling with this, can we explore some other avenues? That they know that you're there, you're working on it, you're thinking, you're trying to think outside the box. Um, and I think that then builds that level of
you're
trust as well.
consulting with them. You're a partner.
Yeah,
You're a partner. Then you're consulting with them rather than just chasing a commission check.
yeah.
That's how I
And
always
and again, that comes down to that
think of it.
external employee kind of mentality. You're paying me to do a job, and I'll do that job to the best of my ability, even if it means we're talking every single week about different avenues.
Mate, switching things up, talking about leadership next.
Hmm.
A post of yours that caught my eye a little while back. I can't remember the exact details of it, but the post was, I think, lead with kindness or something along those lines. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I think that the term kindness has run away with itself. Um, in the sense, I think kindness is being bandied about that. Um, I'll be careful what I say, but I think that kindness is being bandied about that everyone should be given an opportunity, and it's being kind to people, and I view it slightly differently because at the end of the day, you have to make people um, take responsibility for themselves. Um, so one of the tricks that I used to use when I was kind of managing and leading teams is create a safe space for people. So if they had a problem and they had an issue, they knew that they could come and talk to you, um, and that they would be heard and listened to. But also, I think as a leader, and this for me falls into that kindness space that you sit and the one important question to ask is, what should we do about this? What do you want to do about this? And what actions are you going to take? Now, I've worked with people, and it was a bit of a shock because it was like, well, I've come to you with my problem because I want you to sort it, and you go, well, but it's your problem, not mine. And I think that sometimes that is kindness to say, I can come up with 10 solutions for you, and I'm quite happy to do that, and I'm quite happy to talk these through, but you need to take the action on them because it's your problem. And I think that when we talk about kind of recruitment and working with clients, that we can bring that in as well. So we can be kind to clients. We can listen to their problems, their issues. We can listen to the feedback of candidates that we've sent in, and kind of understand that. But ultimately, to fill a role that it's our problem, but it's also on the client as well because it's them that has the final yes or no. So we can sit and we can listen, we can talk through, and we can um, present various solutions to the problems. And I think that's the kindness, because you're helping someone get through that problem, but ultimately you can't take an action for somebody else's problems. And I think that leadership sometimes it is that it's helping people through their problems and not solving them for them. I hope that makes some sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's not, you're just gonna put your arm around them and say everything's okay and I'll take care of this.
Yeah, which I think
Um,
kindness is
but it is, but
kind
it's
of
all.
being led towards. It's like, well, if someone's struggling,
Mm,
you know what, Joe, I know you've got this problem. Leave it with me. I'll sort it out. And I think that that's sometimes where kindness is. Oh, that's so kind of you to do that for Joe. And you think, well, that's not helping Joe, because the next problem he's going to get, he won't know how to solve that one, so he'll come back to me. And then the next problem, because he's not learning the process of solving problems, it's not helping him ultimately. And I think
yeah,
that
it's
there's
kind
that
because
kind of fine
you're help.
balance, that fine balance there.
Yeah, you're still letting them know that you're there. You're willing to listen and you're willing to work together.
Yeah.
And offer ideas and help whatever problem it is. But ultimately, that ownership still lands on them. That's really good. I like that. Um, couple more things for you, mate, for you to
Yeah.
wrap this up. What is sort of we talked a little bit about the past, talked a little bit about what you're doing at the moment. What's the future looking like for you? What can I maybe expect to see from you in the next few years?
So yeah, that's a very good question. Where we're at the moment, obviously this is all very market driven as well. I'd like to say, you could be looking at, you know, X, Y, and Z, but if candidates on there, you're kind of struggling. But I think that kind of like what I can say for certain is that I will be getting more and more into the UK manufacturing engineering industries. I kind of identified that with there's a lot of things I don't know, especially when we start talking about innovation products. We're talking about automation. There's many things that I don't know. Um, I generally only recruit into the things that I do know, the traditional engineering and manufacturing roles. But the world's moving at a greater pace, um, and especially when we talk about warehouse automation and things like that. That it's there's roles within those industries that I'm not 100% certain of. I couldn't talk to you about you. Sorry, I couldn't talk to you about them with that authority that I would like. And I think again that's important. If someone turned up with a role and said, "Can you find me this automation engineer?" I'd certainly have a go. But I would also say I'm not 100% certain. I'm going to have 100 questions for you. Um, and I think that's what we need as recruiters, is having that confidence and that in-depth knowledge of the roles that we're recruiting into. So personally, there's some areas that I've identified within UK manufacturing that I need to learn, um, and a lot of that will be from talking to people and understanding where we are, where we're going, looking at the future of UK manufacturing and engineering, which is actually quite buoyant at the moment. Um, which is nice to hear from the people on the ground. I think this is the other important thing, is we can read all the newspapers about how bad it is and how much red tape there is and how difficult it is to get investments, and then you actually talk to people on the ground, and it's quite buoyant, which is nice to hear. So I think that is. I think you can see that from me, where we're starting to talk more about the actual industries of manufacturing and production, and then just keep that growth going. I think um, I don't particularly ever set myself kind of long-term goals, um, which is probably another story, um, for another day. Um, so it's just that continual growth. The more people I can get into jobs, I think it's kind of will carry on that feeling that yeah, that good feeling that we can get, um, and kind of pushing on the UK manufacturing as well. It's something that I'd like to get into. It's funny kind of working within an industry, and you start to care about that industry. So it's not so much of I work in engineering, I take my wage from engineering, and that's it. I think that once you get to a point where it's almost you can start to influence that kind of engineering industry. And what I mean in that is connecting those companies to each other. It's making sure you're
Yeah.
getting the best candidates into your clients, into companies, that you actually start to get that influence. And I think that that's something that I'm going to push forward over the next couple of years, is to really start to looking at how I'm going to influence the UK manufacturing engineering sector. And that's something that I'm quite passionate about, because at the end of the day, I earn my wage from that industry. Um, and unless you're kind of ingrained and become an integral part of it, I think that you're not fully committed.
It's that when you. It's what I always love about this job is actually when you see the tangible stuff that you do, the tangible outcomes of your work. Like when you're, yeah, as you say, you're invested in your industry, and even the small pieces, sometimes the little things you do, but they affect an industry, they affect people's lives, and that's what's great about what we do.
Yeah.
Greg, that was a really good chat, mate. Thank you very much
Yeah.
for
Thank you, Joe.
running
Thanks
through
for
all
having
that.
me.
Really, appreciate you sharing that all on. Loads of great takeaways, all things recruitment, sort of values, leadership, those kind of things. Really great stuff, mate. Thank you very much for coming on.
No,
I
you're
look forward
welcome.
to staying in touch and following your journey soon.
Yep.
Greg Ward, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Bye.